My name is Roger Nunneman. I'm the Vice President here at Aqualine Drones. I was a airline pilot for almost 20 years, about 10,000 hours. I was at ExpressJet first, 11 of those years. I was in the left seat, and then I went to Atlas Air on the 747 for about 3 years, flying that aircraft before I was asked to come aboard here at Aqualine Drones. Aqualine Drones was conceived of about 5 years ago by Barry Alexander, our CEO. He's a fellow airline pilot. He was at ExpressJet as well, and he was also at Atlas on the 747. Barry, about 5 years ago or so, left Atlas to fly the 747, and he used his time flying around the world to vet the commercial drone industry. I found very quickly that the US was and remains about 8 to 10 years behind much of the rest of the world when it comes to UAV applications. So use that time to understand the industry, see what drones were capable of, what they weren't, how they were being used, and also build up his team. Aqualine Drones came out of incubation almost 2 years ago. And has grown really exponentially ever since. And as today, it's the fastest growing drone company in the entire United States. So what we're here today to talk about is Flight to the Future. And Flight to the Future is a tremendous opportunity, particularly for airline pilots and pilots in general, to leverage their knowledge and their skills in aviation and augment or replace their income of flying manned aircraft. It's the first opportunity that we've had as pilots to really see a six-figure income outside of the cockpit. And not only that, but it's highly scalable. So we can choose when we want to work, how much we want to work, and during the times when we're busy, like family time or recurrent, or when we get called back from furlough. We can really all but shut it down to focus on that, but yet it's still there waiting for us to return as needed. So the Flight to the Future program, as I alluded to earlier, is half of a bigger project called Drone on Demand Services. And Drone on Demand Services is nothing more complicated than understanding that we've taken for the first time the Uber model, the gig economy model, and applied it to the commercial UAV industry. So Flight to the Future is designed ultimately to be an 8-week course, a 6-week course for pilots. Right now, we're running the very first group of students through and constantly tweaking and refining the modules as they progress and give us feedback. So we're doing what's called a soft rollout, where we roll out new content every week or every couple of weeks on an ongoing basis, and are constantly updating the final product based on the experience of the students that are running through. It's a 4-step process. The first step is becoming certified, licensed by the FAA to fly commercial UAV operations. It's a very easy process, the way the FAA has it set up now, for an airline pilot to get their commercial UAV certificate. In fact, it's free. You can do it on the FAA website. It's a 2-hour video, and then you get you take a test, and you get a friend who's a CFI to go ahead and submit it. But it's frighteningly simple and frighteningly easy to go ahead and get that license if you're a pilot. It is not nearly enough information, not nearly enough training in order to safely operate. To bolster that point, if anybody knows anyone who flies commercial drones, who's an airline pilot who got into it on the side, in all likelihood, they crashed 1, 2, or 3 drones while they were kind of figuring it out trial by fire before they got to some sort of level of competency. So Step 1 is a much more expanded program for people, much more in-depth program for people who don't have aviation experience. For most of the people on this call, we are airline pilots. So it's an abbreviated step, but we do train you well beyond what the FAA requires. We train you in everything that you need to remain compliant and stay safe, not just pass the FAA exam. So the people here on this call will move quickly out of Step 1 and go into Step 2. Step two is learning the Aqualign cloud-based dashboard. That's essentially our custom proprietary software suite that manages every aspect of the drone, the flight planning, flight execution, and the data storage and manipulation. So all right there in a very easy to use format. You have all of the critical and free resources that you've come to know in your flying world, your METARs, your TAFs, your NOTAMs that are specific to drone operations. And you also have the ability to query, to submit a requested flight plan, essentially permission to the FAA's database, and get permission returned in a matter of a few seconds to go ahead and launch into controlled airspace. Everything on the drone syncs automatically. There's no plugging in. There's no swapping a USB stick or anything like that. It all syncs wirelessly up to the command and control, so that the majority of these missions will be completely, if not partially, automated in order to remove the pilot out of the equation and ensure compliance. In addition to that, every aspect of the drone is automatically logged. Not just the drone itself as far as flight hours and flight cycles, but also every critical component. And it's tracked and it's flagged on a preventative maintenance program for replacement or overhaul before there's a failure, to greatly increase safety over what most people are doing, well, generally what everybody's doing today in the commercial UAV industry, where they treat the drones not as aircraft, but they treat them as gadgetry, as appliances, and fly them not just beyond their limitations, but fly them until there's a failure. Step three is where you have a decision to make, where you can choose to specialize in an industry-specific use case or solution. Right now, we have 6, and more will be added as time goes on and as regulation allows for them to be added. Right now, the 6 that you have to choose from are videography, survey and mapping, perimeter security, asset inspection, livestock, wildlife management, and crop vegetation and monitoring. So these 6 right now comprise of just about every commercially viable solution that's out there under the current regulatory framework. You'll notice that package delivery is not on there. The reason why it's not on there is because under the current regulation, it's not economically viable. That will become viable in the near future, but in order for that to happen, the FAA has to change the regulation to allow beyond visual line of sight as an OPSPECS type basis, not just on a waiver. And they also have to get away from the one-to-one relationship that they require now, where you have one drone pilot, one operator per drone. It needs to open up where you have one operator per 10 drones or 100 drones or potentially more than that. And once that happens, then you'll see package delivery, last mile delivery go ahead and be added to that list. Stage 4 is where we go ahead and equip you with all the knowledge and all the know-how that you need to run your own business. We register an LLC on your behalf at your direction. That is not a franchise. That is your business to run as see fit. You're not required to use Aqualign branding. You're also not required to purchase any Aqualign products or pay any franchising fee. That is there for your benefit and your protection. We outfit you with a year's worth of insurance through our in-house insurance program. That alone is well worth the $799 cost of the program. If you go out in the commercial marketplace today for a $10 million policy, liability policy, which is the minimum that you need for the enterprise level solutions that we're talking about, they're going to charge you around $2,400 a year. So that is a very valuable offering. We give you a year's worth of the cloud that we just trained you on, free, that subscription. And we onboard you to accept drones through the Drone On Demand Services app. Drone On Demand Services app is the first of its kind. It allows us to do a lot of things, and it opens up a lot of doors for you, the Flight to the Future graduate, and ultimately the small business owner. Now, if you talk to anybody, especially any sole proprietor, anybody who offers commercial UAV solutions, they've had to build the business, the very old-fashioned way of having to go out, get the training, get the certification, get the insurance, and then go ahead and invest a lot in a back end as far as the branding. They have to build a website. They have to invest in search engine optimization, advertising. They have to network. They have to knock on doors. They have to do all of this, which is a very cumbersome, slow process. And while that business is being built, all of that work pays nothing until you get the client on board. In addition to that, like any small business, you have to nurture that business like a newborn baby. Otherwise, it's going to die in the crib. What I mean by that is if you're courting a client and you have plans to go on vacation or do something else, or even just simply go to Recurrent, and that client calls and says they need you there tomorrow in order to inspect a construction site or inspect a power distribution station or whatever it might be, all those other plans that you had have to go onto the back burner, because if you're not there for that client, you may not get a second chance, and you're certainly going to lose that job to somebody else. With the gig economy, you don't have to do any of that. As soon as you receive your hardware and your training and you're brought in to receive jobs through the Drone On Demand Services app, you're ready to earn, just like with Uber. So now, whereas it takes months or maybe even years for a drone services provider to get to a point where they can do a few jobs a week, you can do a couple of jobs a day now very, very quickly, maybe even potentially more. And we're going to be paying the drone on-demand operators no less. We are setting the floor at $150 an hour with a minimum billable period of 2 hours per job. So if you do 2 jobs per day, you're billing 4 hours. You're actually working less than that. And that's at $150 an hour. We'll use the most conservative figures. That's $600 a day. That's $600 a day. If you do that 5 days a week and 50 weeks out of the year, taking a couple weeks off for vacation, that's $150,000 for true part-time work with really nothing invested on the front end other than that initial enrollment fee. So it's a very, very powerful concept. Let me go ahead and take a little bit of time before we go ahead and start going into questions and show you just a little bit of the Flight to the Future program and how the online modules work. Let me do a screen share here for a few minutes. It'll be a video and we'll show you a little bit of the content. And then from there, we'll go ahead and open it up to questions. Just give me one moment here.
Prepare for takeoff in 3, 2, 1. The drone industry is currently rated at billions of dollars with the expectation of it doubling within the next few years. And Aqualine Drones is one of the nation's fastest growing drone and cloud solutions companies. With Flight to the Future, you are now a part of it all and have real potential to make 6 figures within your first year of operating your commercial drone company. So then, welcome to the future of aviation. This is step 1 in the Flight to the Future program. At the completion of this step, you'll have a thorough understanding of drones, aviation, aerodynamics, and the National Airspace System, which is essential for safely operating your commercial drone. Along your journey, you'll be introduced to all the key topics that are covered in the FAA's Commercial Drone Pilot Certification Examination, enabling you to successfully get licensed as a professional drone operator. There are two distinct parts in this educational journey. The first part introduces you to drones, how they're made, what technologies are utilized, and the best practices that have emerged in the industry. You'll learn about drone engineering, airframe design, and flight characteristics that are key to understanding the capabilities of your aviation equipment as a future drone operator. The second part of this educational journey focuses on the rules, regulations, and environmental restrictions that define and influence your operational processes and decisions. In particular, you'll learn about the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, and its responsibilities for governing civilian aviation. The future of aviation will integrate manned and unmanned aircraft in the same airspace. It is therefore important that you, as a professional unmanned aerial services provider, understand the complex ecosystem of airports, traffic controllers, and navigational facilities that make up the national airspace system, so you can be prepared to operate safely and efficiently, just as manned aircraft pilots do. Throughout the journey, you'll be challenged to demonstrate your knowledge as you progress through the curriculum. Smart assessments at the end of each lesson further consolidate your understanding of the topics, allowing you to optimally benefit from your experience as you progress forward. Each lesson also offers a carefully curated selection of advanced topics, related bibliography that students can delve into for a deeper understanding of concepts, technologies, and best practices. For instance, see how the current technologies are being pushed to the limit to deliver autonomous drone operations that are just over the horizon, similar to the situation with driverless cars. Get a glimpse of the complex computer science and mathematics that is being employed to develop new capabilities that have the potential to disrupt the aviation industry. See how drones are evolving rapidly by examining what some of the industry innovators are doing. From heavy lift cargo drones to luxury passenger taxis, aviation is poised for a complete overhaul. By embarking on this educational journey, you are a key contributor for this transformation. Once you've mastered the necessary skills and gained an understanding of the topics presented, you'll sign up to take the FAA certification exam. Aqualine Drones will guide you through that process, and after you pass, will assist you in getting certified with the FAA as a licensed commercial drone pilot. This completes step 1 in your journey, and you're well on your way to owning your own drone business. With the skills and knowledge you now possess, along with the FAA certification, you are ready and qualified to continue forward in the flight to the future. Are you ready to launch yourself into the aviation future? Your journey starts now.
All right, everyone. That's an introduction to step 1. And let me also show a brief synopsis of the entire program. Let's see here.
Prepare for takeoff. Welcome to the future of aviation. This is step 1 in the Flight to the Future program. At the completion of this step, you will become an FAA licensed commercial drone pilot. From understanding how drones are made to the rules of operating them in the national airspace, you'll learn about topics that will help you pass the FAA Part 107 exam for drone pilots. Drone systems. What are drones? From multi-rotors to fixed wing, drones come in many shapes and sizes. In this lesson, you'll learn how drones are made, what their vital components are, and the engineering that makes it all possible. With emphasis on multi-rotors, you'll get a good understanding of the vital systems and technologies employed. For additional perspective, delve into the history of drones and discover how this technological marvel evolved. Aerodynamics. The laws of physics that govern the flight of every drone are introduced in this lesson. Understand the forces involved and the efforts to counter them in flight. With treatments for both multi-rotor and fixed-wing configurations, you'll learn about the conditions that enable a drone to stay airborne. Going beyond the basics, get a glimpse of the future of drone flight, which is autonomous, enabled by developing sophisticated algorithms for flight control. Performance. Like for manned aircraft, drone performance can be defined in ways that are measurable. A number of factors affect performance. In this lesson, you'll see how atmospheric and weather conditions can influence drone flights. High-performance drones exist in a variety of categories. From racing drones to autonomously controlled swarms, discover some of the cutting-edge efforts that are being made to improve capabilities. Weight and balance. All aircraft have weight and balance restrictions. Drones are no exception. In order to safely operate drones, you'll need to understand the ways in which weight and balance affect flight and procedures to achieve stability. Payloads play a crucial role, and you'll learn how to properly follow loading rules based on the drone's capability. You'll also get a closer look at some heavy lift UAV configurations that are being pioneered for cargo and passengers. Aeronautical decision-making. Aeronautical decision-making, or ADM, is the mental process used by pilots to determine the best course of action in an aviation environment. ADM skills are crucial for operating aircraft in a safe and responsible manner. In this lesson, you'll learn best practices and ADM procedures to ensure good risk management for drone operations. For greater context, explore the history of ADM and learn how pilots get trained in this evolving arena. The FAA's role in aviation. The Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, is a government agency that falls under the U.S. Department of Transportation and is responsible for the safety of all civilian aviation in the United States. In this lesson, you'll learn about the important role that FAA plays in commercial drone operations and the services, regulations, and partnerships they have in place to facilitate the expansion of the UAV industry. Airports and the national airspace. Learn about airports and how they are categorized by the FAA. Airports influence the classification of airspace, so a good grasp of this knowledge is essential for safe and authorized drone operations. Airports, along with the airspace and air traffic control facilities, constitute the National Airspace System, or NAS. This ecosystem of assets, personnel, and regulations forms one of the most complex aviation systems in the world. Weather theory and forecasts. Weather prediction is now an essential component of all societal activities. It is of even greater significance in aviation, where it can greatly influence performance and safety. In this lesson, you'll learn about the various sources of national and international weather forecasts and reports, and how they factor in determining flights and schedules. Drone operations rely on this information in a similar manner. Federal aviation regulations. Airspace is categorized as regulatory or non-regulatory by the FAA. Within these two groups, there are 4 types of airspace, determined by aircraft density, location, operational significance, and other considerations. A range of advisories are applicable for each type of airspace. In this lesson, you'll learn about the different FAA advisories across the national airspace and how they impact drone operations. FAA exam and certification. You've come this far and mastered the topics that are relevant to the FAA Part 107 exam for licensing commercial drone pilots. In this lesson, we'll take a closer look at the examination and the process for taking it. From finding the nearest testing center to signing up for the exam, best practices and approaches are discussed. Finally, a realistic practice test is available to gauge your expertise and prepare you for the main event. I'm certified. What's next? Now that you are a FAA licensed commercial drone pilot, a world of opportunities await you. With Flight to the Future, You have access to cloud technologies, IoT connectivity, and AI-based analytics. In step 2 of the program, you'll learn about these cutting-edge technologies and start using some of them to plan and execute drone missions. You are ready now to experience the power of the AD Cloud.
All right. So that is very in-depth of what step 1 is, and that is also the full step 1 course that people from outside would experience outside of aviation. He said all of the knowledge that we have as pilots about national airspace system, weather, and that sort of thing is omitted. Let's see here. Done that. All right. All right, guys, I'm going to start to answer questions. If you could ask the questions through the question and answer rather than the chat, it'll just be easier for me to go ahead and keep track of it. Okay, Krista Strang, what is the total startup cost? So if you already have your pilot's license, the total startup cost is $799 to enroll in Flight to the Future. We price it that low. It's over $5,000 worth of training and services, but we price it that low because we are the first. You will be the first, among the first, going through the course. Q1 of next year, when the first people are going out and starting to earn, and this is no longer, there'll be hard data behind this as far as how much people are earning. The cost of the course is going to go up to $3,000, and we're going to offer financing for it. So for $799, you get all four modules, and at the end of the program, you have the option of purchasing one of our proprietary drones. At the end of the training, you have the business, you have the insurance, you have the cloud subscription, you have all of that. But if you want to be onboarded to receive jobs through the Drone on Demand Services app, which is what most people want, you will need one of our proprietary drones because it's a closed ecosystem. All the risk mitigation is in that system. So you'd be looking at a drone similar to this, if not this one exactly, for the types of certain services that we're talking about. What we have, what this behind me here, that's a Ferrari, that's a $50,000 drone. That's for something that's a little bit different. But this is a robust quadcopter. With this particular one's outfitted with a Sony high definition camera for videos and stills. It's got redundant critical components. It's got electromagnetic shielding, so you can do power line inspections. It's also sealed against weather and dust, so it can operate in all sorts of climates. That drone itself is around $4,000. And depending on what industry specific use case you choose to specialize in, that'll dictate what kind of sensor it needs to be outfitted with, whether it be a stereo camera, high definition, like what's on there now for stills and 4K video, or a FLIR system for looking infrared radar. So depending on what that sensor is, the cost will vary slightly, but it'll be around in the range of $450 to $550. So you're looking at an investment in the hardware at the end of about $4,500. And what we'll do is we will ship you the drone at your option and finance it for you. Stretch the payments out up to 2 years and take a small percentage of the jobs that you complete through Drone on Demand to satisfy the payment each month, in which case you keep everything beyond that. So you'd be looking at about $200 a month. What is the percentage for each mission? What percentage for each mission does Aqualign get? Good question. Very, very similar to Uber. I never drove for Uber, but this is the way I understand it. And this is the way it's going to work here at Aqualign. So Aqualign has a contract, a commitment, an agreement with the paying customer. and Aqualine has an agreement with you, the service provider, the pilot. And the difference between the two is what Aqualine keeps. So it's around 25%. So when we say 150, when I say $150 an hour is the floor, there's nothing deducted out of that. You will see on your portal, on your back end of the Drone on Demand Services app, exactly what the job is, where it is, when it is, and exactly what you will get paid for it, what will hit your bank account. You need not do any type of calculation. Just like the customer sees when they input all of that stuff, they'll see exactly what they're going to be charged. And the difference is what we keep, which is going to be around a 25% or so. But we set the floor at $150 an hour for the pilot for a couple of reasons. Number one, I was at ExpressJet for 13 years. Barry was there for 20 years. We understand what it's like to have a race to the bottom, and we have absolutely no interest in participating in something like that in this industry. We also want to recruit and retain a certain caliber of operator, a pilot. And in order to do that, there has to be a minimum amount of income that the pilot can expect to make. So we set the floor at $150 an hour. Now that's the minimum. Just like if you're familiar with Uber and their surge pricing algorithm, we have a very similar algorithm with our AI that monitors market conditions in real time and seeks to charge the maximum amount for the service that it can based on real-time supply and demand. So 150 is the minimum. You'll frequently, if not always, be making more than that, but it will fluctuate. This is the first time I've done this alone without anybody talking to me on the other end. So it's a very strange feeling for me. If anybody wants to actually ask a question verbally, please do, but I'll keep chewing through these in the meantime. David Manning, what if you already have your SUAS license for the uninitiated, that small unmanned aerial system license, your drone pilot's license? Same thing, it's a $799. Just like it would be for, we'll say, a civilian, somebody who's not a real pilot, a manned aircraft pilot who has their license. We have to make sure that you're trained to our standard, which is higher than the FAA standard. And it's no different than, say, Southwest, back when they were requiring somebody to have a type rating in order to get hired at Southwest, and they'd still run you through the entire program because they want to make sure that you're trained to their standard. We're representing a certain caliber pilot that's out there with a certain, that's equipped in a certain way with a certain capability and a certain level of training. So we will run you through the program. Of course, you don't have to sit for the FAA exam a second time. That would be pointless, but you do have to complete the modules. Linda, can the classes be started at any time, or do we need to start in a group? Yes, they can be started anytime. Initially, we were marketing the program and for September 1st, where the classes were starting the first of each month. Actually, they're going to start every 2 months, and then it went down to every month. But we're at a point now where we're building up our drone production capacity, where we're able to offer enrollment on a continuing basis. So if you were to sign up today, at some point within the next few days to a week, you would be given access to the system. We can go a little bit deeper. In fact, I will at the end of this. Anybody wants to hang on, and I'll actually start playing lesson 1. I was having a little bit of trouble finding it there, but I think that's because somebody else is in my account right now working through it. But you'll see everything's online, and you can work it at your own pace, including the live instruction, which there's at least 1 live class for each module. That's a chance to get your questions answered, fill in any blanks before you move on to the next one. But even those, just like this webinar, are recorded. So if your schedule doesn't allow you to participate, you can go back and watch the recording and get credit for it. So it's completely flexible. And one other thing I want to say, Linda and everybody else, in addition to being part of the Trailblazers as the first group of a couple thousand students to go through, in addition to getting the program at less than 1/3 of what it's going to be priced at ultimately here in a few months, you're also getting an assurance, a guarantee that we will be launching and that you will be able to operate in the market of your choosing. Going forward, that's not going to be the case. We just like we set a floor as far as the pricing, as far as what you're going to get paid as a pilot per hour, we also limit the number of people that can be onboarded in a certain market. So if the AI starts seeing a situation where there's a risk of an oversupply of pilots and an undersupply of jobs, people will be blocked out. They will be waitlisted from coming on board in that market until one of two things happen. Until either supply drops, right? Maybe United calls everybody back, and people who are doing jobs every day have severely curtailed the amount of work they're doing, or demand increases. Where population grows, the demand for these services is ever expanding. You can expect the market to grow. We'll make them wait until the market is able to support an additional pilot. So being part of this first group, you don't get caught up in any of that. You're being really well rewarded for going through this process and providing feedback on it for us. Where does the training take place, Jason Russell? Training all takes place online. And of course, the live instruction, it'll likely be done here at Hartford, but of course you do it online from where you sit. There is a hands-on portion of the training. The way it was originally designed, conceptualized, and built out was you, the student, would be piloting an actual drone, a Hercules drone like this or something similar, through real space and time from your dashboard, wherever you happen to be. These things are controlled through the AI, they're controlled through the cloud. Like any fly-by-wire aircraft, it's simply a question of really testing your ability to interface with we'll say the FMS, and hit execute. The FAA is not going to allow that under the current regulation. So we've had to pivot. So the way the practical skills assessment is going to take place going forward is at the end of the program. If you opt to be onboarded with a Drone on Demand services app, which means you're going to need one of our SUAVs, small unmanned aerial vehicles, we will ship you the drone. And before you can start accepting jobs, an instructor will be here in Connecticut, or they really could be anywhere. And they will monitor you'll go out and deploy the drone in your area, and they will fly you through a check ride and monitor all of the onboard telemetry and video in real time. You go ahead and complete that check ride. Then you get checked off, and that's the final step, and then you're fully released to go and start accepting jobs through the Drone on Demand app. And that's how we'll handle it that way. Krista Strang, how much is drone you offer? Just like I said, you can expect it to be this drone or something very, very similar to it. It's the Hercules 2. Drone itself is around $4,000. The sensor is going to be between $450 and $500, depending on what you need for the use case that you studied. And we will finance the whole thing for you with no money down, if that is what you choose. Linda, can you explain how you do territories for your graduates? Good, great question. So we talk about territory, we talk about where you told us you want your business to be registered, okay? So that is gonna be your home base, but you're not limited to where you can operate, okay? So what you'll see on the app, on your end of the app, is you'll see a little blue dot, and that's you. And that's where you are, where you're geolocated on the map. And then you can define the radius as far as how far you want to operate. You can go as far as 100 miles. You can keep it as small as 10 miles. And as you move around, that dot moves with you. And you're free to pick up any jobs that come up there, even if it's outside of where you've registered your business. Back in July, I talked to a United pilot. He's retiring. He's may even be retired now. His plan with his wife was they were going to buy an Airstream, and they were going to travel around the country in his retirement. What he's going to do now is he's going to take his drone with him on the road as they chase the nice weather, and wherever they camp, when he feels like it, he's going to turn the app on. It's going to go ahead and populate the jobs for him wherever he is. So when we say territories, it's not it's not that rigid type of concept like you have with a franchise or something like that. It really, your territory is really defined by where you are. And you can travel outside of that if you wish. What you can't do is you can't go ahead and see like a map of the entire United States and see where the jobs are clustered and then go in there like a hawk and clean everybody else out. That wouldn't be fair to the people who've gone ahead and registered businesses in those communities and prefer to operate there. But if you take the time to actually physically travel to go out and explore, we're not going to keep you from going ahead and operating in that area. Lancelis. Lascelles. Sorry, the writing's really small here. Continuing a bit on associated costs. What are the costs associated with insurance, maintenance, and drone on demand after the first year? Very, very, very relevant question. All right, so after the first year, like I said, insurance and cloud services are no longer included, ongoing fee. And you'll need both in order to continue to receive jobs through Drone On Demand app. You can buy the insurance anywhere. We don't care, as long as it's a $10 million policy. But what you'll find is out in the general market, it's going to cost you $2,300, $2,400. We're going to charge you about $1,400, half, for the same product. So it really won't make sense. You're not obligated, but it really doesn't make any sense to buy insurance anywhere else. The reason why we're able to do that is out in the general public, there's a lot of bad practices. There's a lot of liability because there's a lot of property damage. There's a lot of equipment loss. And that's because the majority of people who are out there doing these jobs have gone out, they spent $100, $150, or they bought a book to do, like a Gleim, to do their test prep, and they took the FAA written, and now they have their license. But they don't know anything. They don't understand the national airspace system. They don't understand the free weather resources that are out there. They don't understand that drones aren't gadgetry, that they're aircraft, and they have to be respected as such. Their limitations have to be respected, and they have to be maintained properly in a preventative way, not simply flying them until they break. So you have a lot of bad practices, which is causing a lot of loss, which is causing the insurance companies really just kind of pull a number out of thin air and make sure that they're covered, because they're still trying to figure all this out. We're taking care of all that because we're handling the training, we're handling the maintenance, we're building the drones ourselves, so we have quality insurance control, and we have the cloud that's automating the mission. So we can offer the insurance for far less than you're going to find anywhere else. As far as cloud services, it's per unit, per aircraft, just like the insurance is. And you're looking at about $20 a month, $250 a year, ongoing for the cloud services. Oh, and something else I don't think I mentioned about the cloud as well. The cloud also captures and actually manipulates, turns the data into something usable for the customers. So you don't have to spend a lot of time, or even any time in many cases, going ahead and editing the pictures or the data or combing through it for what the customer wants. That's done in large part by the AI, and the customers have access to tools on their end to go ahead and manipulate the data into what it is they ultimately need. And all that's done seamlessly. Again, you don't have to plug in. If you have an LTE connection or a Wi-Fi connection, it's going to sync up automatically with the drone in near real time. If not, it's all housed on the drone until you get to an area where you do have a connection, and then it'll fire right up. So the cloud, just like the Drone on Demand Services app, the cloud itself and the tools that are given to you, the operator and the business owner, are really the first in its world. It's industry leading. It hasn't been done anywhere else. Maintenance costs. I don't know what the maintenance costs will be. These drones they're actually of a French design, a company that we're partnered with. They've been around for several years. They've been sold to various governments across the globe. But this is the first time that they're being deployed by the thousands. It's the first time they're being deployed in the US. It's the first time they're being deployed by the thousands. And it's the first time they're being put in this wide variety of operators' hands, doing a wide variety of missions in all types of weather. So we really don't know how fast certain parts are going to wear out. Just like GE with their engines, or Boeing or Airbus, they're constantly grabbing the data, and the AI is refining it as the data comes in and they see parts wearing out and ultimately failing. And that's what's going to drive the maintenance program. So I can't give you an exact schedule because nobody knows it. But I can tell you, if you look at this drone, you're looking at propellers, you're looking at the battery, you're looking at the motors, okay? You may be looking at 3D printed parts here that'll have to be replaced. It's not like maintaining a car. It's not even like maintaining a go-kart. And especially when you're considering that you're making a minimum of $300 per job that you go out on for the simplest jobs. It's not something that you're going to notice or feel, but it is something that has to be done, because if you don't maintain it, first of all, the cloud will not allow the aircraft to go ahead and fly without the maintenance being done. But then you're going to see failures, and you're going to see property damage, which obviously is not acceptable. The other thing to point out is when service does come due, a lot of it you can do. Most of it you can do yourself. Obviously you can change out the battery, you can change out the rotors, the props. But if it's something that requires you to open it up and take the cover off, we will ship you a loaner drone while we work on yours, so that you're not without a drone for any period of time and not able to earn. Because quite frankly, it's not fair to you. And if you're not out doing these jobs, then it's not worth our time. We're not making any money on the training program with what we're offering for $7.99 or $9.99 for people without aviation experience. We're investing a lot more in the training on the front end than you are. We're investing close to $5,000 on you. Actually, more than that when you take into account the insurance, and if we're going to finance the drone with no money down. So we only make money. It only becomes worthwhile for us when it becomes worthwhile for you, and that's when you're out earning. So we want to make sure that you're not without a drone that's in good working order at any point in time. As time goes on, and as this program continues to grow and roll out nationally, we're going to have regional service centers, drone dealerships, but obviously that's going to take a little bit of time. So until we get to that point, it'll be done through the mail, through UPS, FedEx, whatever. Yes, Linda, we do help you determine what specialties are prosperous and growing in your areas of the country. Ultimately, the decision is going to be up to you. You are the only one that's going to know your market, that will know your market best. There's over 40,000 different markets just throughout the US. But as part of the program, you have access to our data and our research, which goes down to the county level, where you can actually click on your county or any county that you're interested in, and you can see what jobs, what the demand is for each specific job and at what rate they're growing. Very, very granular, detailed information. So you will have all of that before you get to step 3 and before you have to make a decision. And so you'll have everything that you need to be very confident in what you choose. And you can also always go back to step 3 and take on more than one industry-specific use case. There's nominal charge involved in that. I don't know what it is. We haven't figured that out yet. We haven't decided yet, but it is nominal, and it's just going through step 3. And you do have that option. But we encourage you to go out and get proficient in whatever it is you got trained in the first time around before you go back and take on more. But you absolutely have that freedom. And you will have access. You will know everything that we know about the UAV market. By the time you get through this program, you will know more than virtually anybody else out there, not only about how to operate these things, but running a business, and just what exactly the trends are in the industry. Do you have on-demand customers in all areas of the country? Yes. The drone on demand, like I said, is being switched on towards the end of the year. It's going to be late fall, early winter. It's the first of its kind in the world. But we have done extensive market research in order to ascertain what the demand is. And I can tell you, without giving you the proprietary information, which you will have after you sign up for the program, you can spend just a few minutes, 20 minutes on the internet and see for yourself. There's been a dozen or more articles written just in the last year from credible sources, places like Bloomberg, Forbes, New York Times, that detail just how big an industry it is here in the US. Keep in mind that commercial drone industry, although it's been around for 10 years in other parts of the world, in the US, it's only come to being in the last 3, almost 4 years. And that was when the FAA opened up some of the regulation through Part 107. So this industry is in its nascency, it's brand new. Even with that, it's already a $20 billion a year industry here in the US. And Forbes says in the next few years, it's going to be 40 billion. I think it's going to be much more than that because that's not taking into account what we're doing with drone on demand services. Those same outlets, those same articles will also detail just how short supply qualified pilots are that have US or friendly nation produced hardware. The demand far outstrips the supply, even as it is now. Now take into account that currently drone pilots get paid around $300 an hour plus to provide their services. But remember, they have to invest a lot of that time in the back end not getting paid. We're going in charging almost half that. Excuse me. We're going to market in something that's already red hot, where demand outstrips supply, and we're coming in at about half the cost. Half the cost with a certain certification, a minimum guarantee to the customer as far as the product and the pilot and the hardware and the safety. So it's economics 101 when you take something that's already strong demand and you increase the quality and you lower the price of what's going to happen. Not only that, but the existing operators that are out there that are charging what they can, $300 an hour plus, for the types of services that we're talking about. I'm not talking about somebody in high school who's unlicensed, uninsured, who goes to Best Buy, gets a drone, and takes pictures for realtors that they know. It's a different story. But these type of enterprise level solutions that we're talking about can have a very hard time competing against you, the Flight to the Future graduates. You're the only ones that are going to have access to the drone on demand services jobs. And if they want to be competitive, they need to cut their prices in half. However, that doesn't alleviate them the cost and the necessity of going ahead and doing all the things that we talked about: networking, advertising, search engine optimization, website, and anything else that's associated with it. So we are going in here into a red hot market as a true disruptor. And it's going to be very, very hard over the coming months to compete against the Drone on Demand Services app and the Flight to the Future pilots. I'll just say Deb Ings. What is the best sensor and or camera package to start out with as a new drone operator? That's largely going to be determined by your geographic area that you want to operate in. It's hard to make a bad choice, especially since all the cost comes in right around the same. But I would say look at your county data, which we'll give you, and you'll see what the demand is. The easiest way to explain it is if you're in the Northeast, if you're in the Metro New York, Long Island area, you've got a whole lot of need for asset inspection there, but not a whole lot of need for farming, anything agricultural or livestock related. That, on the other hand, if you're in the heartland, you're in the middle of Iowa somewhere, unless they have windmills around, there isn't much infrastructure to inspect. So there, that you'd have a much better time going ahead and focusing on something agricultural. But you'll have all of the information that you need to make that decision when you get there. And you don't have to even really start thinking about that until you're approaching step 3. But we're here to help you make the best decision. And Celis, secondly, what is the FAA flight physical requirement, and do we generate our own 1099 for tax purposes? We will generate a 1099 for you. There is no physical requirement other than for you to self-certify that you are of sufficient mind and body to completely safely complete the drone missions. There's no medical, there's no upper age requirement. There is a minimum age requirement of 16 years old, just like private pilot license. We require that you be at least 18 years old in order to be on board for the Drone on Demand Services app. So we do have a few people, a handful of people. I participate in the mentorship and future pilot forums for FAPA that are actually in high school. They're 17 now. They're working through the program, and they're going to be turning 18 soon after they complete, or a few months after they complete, and then they're going to go out and start earning. Also, another thing, not a question that was asked yet, but very relevant for everybody that's on this webinar. My wallet's upstairs in my office, but this is a separate certificate. It's not an additional rating or endorsement on your airman certificate. And that's very important because it's tracked differently. The FAA has never taken action against a pilot, a manned aircraft pilot, for something that they did with a UAV. So if you were to go out there and be extremely negligent and land on the White House or something else, try to fly in the middle of LaGuardia, they wouldn't come after your certificate, your airman certificate. That's handled separately. The only thing that you're risking is your SUAV license, your drone license. I bring that up because I have had questions throughout the months of people saying, I'd love to do it, but I am just not going to risk my ATP. That's not a concern. That's not something that's in play. Anonymous attendee. How do you determine the limits of geographic area that we would work? That's what we answered. That's up to you. You go ahead and define it up to 100 miles. And if you're willing to make the effort to actually physically move yourself into a new geographic area, then you'll have access to those jobs in that area as well. Good questions. Casey, hi Casey, did you say, you sent us the jobs, and what is the flexibility on that? Casey, it's just like Uber. You turn it on when you want to work. Unlike Uber, where Uber, the job is right then and there, there is a delay. Initially, it's going to be a delay of several days. So let's say you turn it on Monday, the earliest that you're going to see jobs populating are going to be jobs that are that Thursday. That's because we have to have human beings involved in it while the AI, the machine learning, is trained to vet these jobs. Obviously, we're not going to approve a job that's something that's illegal or immoral, harassing an ex or something like that. But as the AI learns, we can have less and less human intervention in there, and then we can go ahead and shorten that cycle up. But you turn it on, you define the geographic area you're operating on, and you'll see the jobs that you're trained for as they pop up. The ones that you'll see exactly what they'll pay and what they entail. The ones that look good for you, that work on your schedule, you just tap it. That's yours. It disappears for everybody else. And if you don't want it, you just let it sit there and somebody else takes it. And it's as simple as that. Scott Nicholson, thank you for conducting this presentation. You're welcome. Is there a way to know how many drone on demand operators are active in my local area? We know that, but no, there's not a way to know. The answer, it's a simple, not a way for you to know, and it's actually a simple answer. The answer is no. The first operators are going to be going live here towards the end of the year. But I can tell you, even though there's a couple thousand that are running through the program now, it's a very, very big country, over 40,000 markets. There is not any danger of saturation for this first group. Going forward, as the data starts coming in, like I said, we will waitlist people for however long it takes in order to prevent any type of saturation taking place. And also keep in mind that different people are trained in different areas. Some people, I have no doubt, will be ambitious and they're going to want to take on multiple drones with multiple sensor packages. And that's fine. We'll do that. But now you're really hustling. Now you're in a situation where you're looking at bringing on employees, because now it gets to be so much work that one person can't handle it. So if you're trained and outfitted with a drone that's optimized for videography and photography, you're not going to necessarily be getting the search and rescue missions. They're not going to be appearing because you're not equipped or trained for it, that require infrared for scouring the woods for heat signatures. So it's not really as simple an answer as you might have assumed. But all I can tell you is at this point, especially if you're one of the first, you don't have to worry about there not being enough jobs to go around relative to the number of pilots that are in your area, which I think is probably at the heart of your question. Is there required recurrent training for Aqualine once we have our certification? There is every 2 years, you have a biannual, I'm just going to call it a quiz from the FAA. It is minimal, especially for somebody who's already a professional aviator. It is checking a box. So it's not recurrent training, but it is a recurrent test. And we will assist you with that when that happens 2 years down the road. Very good question, Christina. Very few people ask this. If the course is self-paced, when does the 1 year included subscription start? Would it start at sign-up or after completion? It starts when you receive your drone. That's when the 1 year begins. So there is no penalty for going ahead and stretching this program out. Case in point, somebody signed up, they're enrolled. I signed them up back in August, I think. He has a temporary contract in the Middle East. So he was shipping out in September, and he's going to fly like crazy over there, and they're bringing him back here January 1st. And that's when he wants to start the coursework. But he wanted to get a foothold in there to get it at the lower price, and also to make sure that wherever it is that he lives, I can't remember, that he was going to be able to operate in that area. So he signed up, and he's actually the only person who asked me that question. So there is no penalty. There is nothing to discourage you from going ahead and working this at your own pace. If something comes up, take care of whatever that is. Of course, we're sitting here waiting for you to continue when you're ready. Good question. Bob, I think we beat that to death. Yes, there is. There's multiple protections to prevent oversaturation of pilots. And it's all handled through the AI. Hunter Kellogg. How much national regional marketing is AD planning to execute versus what we are responsible for locally? Great. Hunter, you're not responsible for any advertising or any branding. You can, you're absolutely free. In fact, we encourage it. If you are so inclined to go out and hustle your own business, that is fine. And we know that some people, maybe a lot of people, are going to do that. But as far as the drone on demand services app, we're going to handle all of that. And a lot of it's going to be done just again like Uber. Uber's done very, very little advertising. The way I heard about Uber, and the way I think just about all of us heard about Uber, is we read about it. We heard about it in the news because it was something so new, and it was so disruptive, and it was so controversial with all of the chest beating from the cabbie drivers. Same thing here. So we'll advertise nationally and regionally, locally, where appropriate. But the lion's share, the way the word is getting out, the way the word's going to continue to get out, is through our press releases and interviews with CNN, Fox, New York Times, you name it. This, for whatever reason, people still see this as aviation. And it has the ability to touch people's hearts and imagination, just like full-scale aircraft. People get very, very excited about it, and the press is very, very eager to cover it because when they do, they see an immediate uptick in their readership and viewership. Chris, yes, like we answered, what risk to my already held pilot certificates are there? None. And the FAA has never taken any action against an airman certificate for something that they've done with a small UAV. Now, just like if you were to get drunk and roll your truck through a bunch of school children, the FAA, it didn't involve an aircraft. The FAA would strip you of your license, which you wouldn't need anyway because you can't fly when you're in jail. Same thing with a drone. If you were to do something extremely egregious that showed absolute poor moral character, the FAA would take it away, anyway. But it's something as far as causing damage while you're operating the small UAV, blundering in airspace or something like that, they're not going to go after your pilot's license. They handled it separately. Yes, Bob, we answer that. We give you access throughout the program to all of our market research, which is as specific as the county level for every county in the United States. Scott Nicholson, how much will subscription cost after the first year? About 20 bucks a month, 250 a year for the cloud. Excuse me. What does demand for the company look like right now? We talked about that. It's extremely strong and growing. Derek, is there a minimum or max number of jobs per month? No. Hustle, work your heart out. The more money you make, the more money we make. If you're not out there flying, Aqualine's not making anything. So, and like I said, and also on the other side of minimum, no, there isn't. If life or your flying job or whatever precludes you from working, then that's fine. That's your business. There is no minimum. It's all about flexibility from start to finish. Linda, that's my favorite question. How do we sign up? Go to aqualinedrones.com. That's how you spell it, AQUILINE. At the top, you'll see a button for Flight to the Future. Click on that, and then make sure you select the Success Kit for pilots, the $7.99 version. It's a credit card. You enter your credit card, and within a few days, you'll get access to the learning environment. How many on-demand subscriptions does AD currently have across the U.S.? We haven't released it to the country yet. That's coming in the next several weeks. All of our efforts have been focused on enrolling, getting the requisite number of pilots to have a nationwide rollout, and also the online modules and making the course, what you saw during the brief demonstration today. So we're shifting gears here, or actively shifting gears now. Go ahead with the beta version. We say it's a beta version. It's really more than 1.0 version of the Drone on Demand app. It took 2 years to build it. That's going to go out. It's going to have the full functionality so people can play with it, except they're not going to be able to go through that final step and actually submit the job request. And then when it actually launches in earnest for the jobs in the fall, winter, those markets that have Flight to the Future graduates that have been equipped are the markets where it's going to be turned on. Again, just like Uber didn't go ahead and launch nationally overnight. They launched regionally and they grew out. Same thing over here. There's no point launching a service to customers when there isn't a drone on demand pilot within 100 miles. That's just going to be pointless. So what you'll see is if there's a market, let's say somebody's in Indianapolis and we don't have a pilot there, it won't be live in Indy, even though it's probably going to be live in Chicago or wherever else. We get one person from Indianapolis, registers a business in that area. They go through, they do their check ride, they get signed off. Boom, that we flash an update. 1.0 goes to version 2.0 for that geographic area, and they're off to the races. Yes, anonymous attendee. I see a lot of drone footage from the area hit by Hurricane Sally. Is there a plan to offer damage assessment services after natural disasters? Yes, there is. Absolutely. And not only so you can look at customers not only at local governments, but you can also look at news agencies and big one, homeowners, property owners, and insurance companies. All of them, customers. Florida is one of the hottest places for all types of commercial UAV services. Work at least 4 hours a day. How many clients have signed up? We have our own clients. We have a diverse business plan. We also have our Aqualine Enterprise solutions, which is why we have several $50,000 drones sitting around the office, like the one behind me. But that's all outside of Drone On Demand Services app. All I can tell you is it takes a little bit of vision as far as Drone On Demand. This is the first time in the world that it's ever been done. You will be among the first students to actually go through in this program and go out and start earning. It does take some vision, but it doesn't take a whole lot of vision. And spend a little time researching the industry, just see exactly how much demand is out there already, see exactly what people charge for the services now. And I think the answer will become very clear, very, very clear, that the only thing that's going to determine how much or how little you make is how much you work, not the amount of demand, that's out there. I can't say that in January, wherever market you're in, I don't even know where you are, that you're going to turn on the app and it's going to be blowing up. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to start out as a trickle that's going to go quickly to a stream and then to a torrent, or if it's going to start out pretty fast and pretty hot and heavy right away and only go up from there. I don't know. But I can tell you, for the amount of money that's being asked for on the front end, and the very well documented demand for services out there, and the amount of money that you're going to be earning at a minimum, it makes it a very easy decision. At least a very easy decision for most people. Can one LLC use multiple sensors for different specialties? Can one LLC cover multiple market areas? Yes, Scott. That's true to both questions. The easiest way to cover multiple areas is the example that we gave where you're traveling. Now this gets into a little bit of the weeds as far as an LLC and as far as how they're taxed in different municipalities. Generally, the way it works is you register your business where your primary base of operations is, because that's where it's taxed. And then you have to be licensed. You get licensed in what's called a foreign entity. And this will all be covered in Module 4. I'm not going to go too deep into it. Foreign entity as far as foreign to that municipality. So you get licensed in that area, and you have to do that if you're going to operate with any regularity. And if they don't, these counties, these townships actually have people that watch for this, and then they will come after you and they will fine you. But if you're going to operate in an area just occasionally and not regularly, generally you can just go there and you can operate. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. So like the United pilot is going to be traveling around the country. He only needs to be licensed, wherever it is needs to be registered and licensed where it is that he tells us, because he's going to be traveling and going through different areas. He's not going to fall into any of that. But yes, you can have multiple sensors swapped out on the drone, trained in multiple specialties, and you can be licensed in multiple markets. The answer is yes to all of that. Deb, yes, it's being recorded and there is a link. I think the way it works is afterwards you can go ahead and log back in and get it. If not, send an email request to me. Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and see. I'm going to type the answer because my name is hard to give out. It's hard to spell. Just go ahead and anybody who wants a recording of this and you're not able to find it on your own, send a request to me and I will send you the link. And it's R as in Roger, Nunneman, my last name, at aquilinedrones.com. R Nunneman at aquilinedrones.com. Celis, what are the advantages of the larger UAV to your right? And which of the 6 special areas will most benefits from its use? Former express cheddar. Amen. So there's a lot of advantages. There's also some disadvantages. It's extremely expensive. It's a Ferrari. It can carry a lot of weight. It can fly long distances. You can outfit it with sprayers. You can do just about anything with it. However, because it's so expensive, so large, and so powerful, for a lot of jobs, certainly the 6 that we mentioned, it's like using a sledgehammer to drive a nail. So you have to use the right tool for it. But this thing can do just about anything, including small package delivery. It is a massive, massive drone. And I'll tell you what, Mitch. If you want to send me an email, or if anybody does, I'll send you the specs on it because it's quite impressive. But that's really something that's not being offered or not suitable for the type of missions that we talked about. Linda, can we have partners in the program, or does each person have to pay the program cost? You can have partners in the program, yes, but they do have to go through it if they're going to take jobs through the Drone on Demand Services app. So if you want to go ahead and have them run their own equipment on stuff that you've hustled on your own, that's fine too. But we have to assure that they're trained properly. Obviously, the insurance doesn't go just to the airframe, but it also goes to the pilot, and everything else. So they have to run through the program because they're not going to be eligible for the insurance. They're not going to be covered under the insurance if they don't. And of course, they need to be trained on the cloud services as well as go ahead and pass the FAA exam. It's not a kind of thing where you can have a group of people huddle around the computer and go ahead and take the modules. That's not sufficient. But I do actually, I know of one person who's going through the program with his two sons, and they're all going to specialize in different areas in Module 3. You're going to take possession of 3 different drones, one for each sensor that's offered, and they're going to try to corner the market in their area. Where did the name Aqualine come from? That's their CEO, Barry Alexander's. That was his idea. Aqualine refers to the crook, the bend in an eagle's beak. So where it's probably used most is someone has an aquiline nose. Think of George Washington. He's the most famous example of somebody with a hook nose. Barry's first business, I think it was his first business, was an air ambulance company in St. Lucia. I think he was just a teenager at the time, early 20s. It was Aqualine Air Ambulance, and then he started multiple businesses after that. All of them had the name Aqualine. Is there a possibility of operators not having jobs available each day? I suppose anything's possible. Yeah, it's possible, but do a little research and you'll find that it's unlikely that that'll happen with any regularity. Certainly after the program catches on. Hi, Jacqueline. Sorry I joined late. I have an FAA, PPL, and foreign ATP. Can I join? Yes, you can. Do you physically have to be in the USA? I'm an American citizen, but currently out of the USA. No, Jacqueline, you do not have to physically be in the USA. And I can tell you that very, very quickly, if not at the same time, by quickly, I mean a matter of weeks or maybe a few months, Drone on Demand Services app is going to launch via Aqualine Canada, and then we will go on from there. But as far as doing the training, you can do it. And the fact that you already have an FAA license, that's another important part. Somebody who doesn't have an FAA license has to actually go to a testing center, just like where we all went to take the written ATP, and pay the $150 fee or whatever it is that they charge to go ahead and do that. But that's not the case for people who already have their pilot's license. We'll submit all the IACRAs on your behalf, and you can take the test through the FAA's portal right from their website. Very, very easy. Oh, and Jacqueline, you can go back too and watch this. This whole thing's being recorded. Hunter Kellogg, in case of the SAR missions, does the cloud provide live feedback to the customer, or is it all recorded media? Yes, it's real time or near real time, as provided there is right now LTE connection, service connection available, or Wi-Fi, And then as 5G rolls out, then 5G will be included too. So they'll be able to get that in near real time. And if not, then they'll get it as soon as it syncs and uploads. How long does it usually take people to go through training? Okay, Derek. So the program is designed for pilots to take 6 weeks, and that's assuming 20 hours of study per week for the average person. And for non-pilots, it's an 8-week program under the same assumption. As we were talking about at the beginning of the call, this is, we've gone with a soft launch rather than go ahead and dump everything out when the classes started here in September. So we're unrolling new content, new modules out, and constantly refining it based on the feedback that we're getting from you guys, from the pioneers. So every couple of weeks, more is going out. So you can expect if you were to sign up today and be part of this first group, you can expect it to take you all the way through November, maybe even first part of December to go ahead and get through it, because it's a very slow, very soft process. And we are taking your feedback as you go through that training and incorporating it in the modules that have not yet been released. But once that's done, once you're going into Q1 of next year and the price goes up to $3,000, expect people to take 6 to 8 weeks to go through. Can 2 drone operators share 1 drone? Yes. And we have a few people doing that. Christina says, have you guys thought about creating some kind of cooperative agreement with certain entities, government insurance companies, for example, to have them use your site to book work? Oh yeah, we've thought of it and we're doing it. Anonymous, would Success Kit for pilots be good for a pilot with only a private pilot license? Yes, Anonymous, it'd be absolutely fine. The only thing I would say is just think about, I talked to somebody, he hadn't flown in 20 years, and he was just a private VFR pilot prior to that. And I just asked him to, really think about doing the full course, because even the definition of, he might not even be familiar with the definition of the National Airspace System as it sits today, and quite a bit's changed. And even what he did know, he's extremely fuzzy on. But if you have a good understanding of what you needed to pass your written private pilot, then by all means, go ahead and jump in on it. A lot of what you need to learn to pass the FAA exam is the information that's covered for private pilot ground school. So National Airspace System, METARs, TAFs, NOTAMs, basic aerodynamics, all that sort of stuff. So if you feel good with that, or even if you're not good at it, but you know where to look it up, go for the $799 course. Casey, is there a way to pay down the drone quicker? Absolutely, Casey. Good question. You don't even have to finance it. You can go ahead and pay for it up front. As far as at the end of the program, if you're looking at financing it, financing terms, just like just about anything else you finance, it's going to be, the cost is going to be based on credit rating. Everybody's going to get financed, but the finance cost, the interest, is going to be based on credit rating. And you're going to have several options as far as paying it down quicker and having a lower overall cost of finance, or stretching it out as long as up to 2 years. And at the end of the program, you'll be, everybody, the bank, the financing company is going to go ahead and send the terms that are being offered, and you can say great, or you can say no, or I'm going to pay for it all, or I'd rather just pay for it all with my credit card, whatever you want to do. So, but yes, again, flexibility is paramount in everything. Yes, after the first year insurance, $1,400 a year. Maybe $1,450, maybe $1,350. If you've crashed a few, it's going to be more than $1,400, but you're not going to crash any, because everything's going to be monitored by the cloud, including the command and control. Can the drone operate in cold winter temperatures? Yes, it can. How many different sensors can the Hercules 2 accept? Right now, we're offering 3. 3 is all that's needed for what we've outlined. But anything that's really, up to a pound or so, that can fit in this general area. So it can handle a lot. And this is a nice gimbal mount here, up to including, gas and radiation detectors. It's a very, very versatile drone. All right, let's see here. Just on the chat, I just see a handful of questions here. How much does the course cost? $7.99 for pilots and people who are currently licensed, whether they're a pilot or currently licensed drone operator, and $9.99 for everybody else. Is pilot responsible for UAS maintenance? Yes, but the cost is minimal. Are there opportunities in every city, or do you have to travel? Yes, there are opportunities in every city. You can travel if you want, but you don't have to. How well can the drone handle inclement weather such as rain? It can handle light rain just fine, but there are limitations. I think this particular one, I think it's limited to 40, it's in miles per hour. Sorry, guys, not and girls, not knots. But I think it's a maximum wind component of 40 miles per hour. Certainly can't handle any freezing precipitation. There's no anti-ice systems on it. But it can handle any type of rain beyond that. Now you start getting into an issue where if it's heavy rain, you're not going to be able to fly because you're not going to have the required visibility. But as far as it getting wet, it's fine. It's sealed against that. Can multiple pilots operate on one LLC? Yes, and some do. How much does the drone cost? How much is maintenance? We talked about that. So I don't see any other questions there. This was a good 5.5 hours. The overwhelming majority of attendees here were women. And I have to thank Michelle Bishop, who's also enrolled in the Flight to the Future program. She's a United pilot. She went out there on our behalf, Michelle and Barry, and Michelle and I worked together at ExpressJet for many, many years. And I know that she was a strong advocate at the Women Pilot Forums. And I can only assume that she is the reason why we've had such a great showing of women here on this webinar. Christina, when will the price go up? My husband may want to take the course, but may not be able to begin for a few months. Will a non-pilot price also go up? Okay, so yes, all of the prices are going up. They're going to go up Q1 of next year. So sometime between, January and March? January and April? January and March. So if he were to get in now or very, very soon, he could certainly, wait to begin the content until he's ready. And that's fine. It's once you get the foot in the door, then, then you're in the club, so to speak. For that partner option, can I assume that we would each pay for the course? Yes, you would each pay for the course. Would we only have free insurance subscription? Right. So the subscription is based on the number of drones, and so is the insurance. So you go through the course, you get the training. If you only go through one drone, then you're only responsible for one maintenance program, responsible for the purchase price of one drone, one cloud subscription, and one insurance program. So you could absolutely all split that. And then of course, if we were to bring on a second drone, then it'd be 2 insurance programs, 2 cloud subscriptions, and on down the line. So yes, you can realize cost savings that way. All right, everybody. If there's anybody thinks of any questions, which I'm sure you will, please, I'm going to go ahead and type my email address in here one more time. Right here. Please write this down. Go ahead and submit a question to me directly. And I'm also going to give you my phone number. I'll give you my cell phone. Feel free to call if you have any questions. We are onboarding a large number of people, so please be patient if it takes me a day or two to get back to you, but I will get back to you. Email address is rnuneman@aqualinedrones.com. That's in the chat section. And my phone number is, I'm used to a much bigger screen. or 414-915-2508. Okay, and that's my cell. Feel free to reach out. I want to thank everybody again for attending, for asking so many great questions. This is about all my voice can handle. So I am going to end the meeting and hope to see all of you in class. Bye-bye.